Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. How are we all doing? Hey, I wanted to make a short video and talk to you a little bit. People are starting to email me and express concern about poor test grades. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some ideas and some suggestions that might help you with that. What I want to talk to you about is something that a lot of people don't really understand, and what it is it involves two kinds of knowledge. The first is called receptive knowledge, and the second one is called expressive knowledge. Now, what does this mean? Receptive means to receive. So when you read your textbook or you sit and listen to your teacher lecturing in class, you are in receptive knowledge mode. But when you take a test, you have to take that knowledge and put it back out there. You have to expressive. That's called expressive knowledge mode. And what happens is a lot of people think that when they read something and they understand it, or when they listen to their teacher lecture and they understand their teacher, they think that they've got it. They think that they are okay and they can take a test on it. But that really is not true, because all they are in is receptive mode. They're not in expressive mode. Let me give you a couple of examples of this. Have you ever been in a situation where maybe at a job your supervisor comes up to you and says, hey, I have something I need for you to do, and here's how I want you to do it, and they give you instructions. And you listen, and you nod, and you say, okay, I understand that. And the boss says, good, well then explain back to me what I just said. And at that point you go, I can't do it. I understood everything you said, but I can't explain it back to you. Why? You were able to receive the knowledge. You were in receptive mode, but going into expressive mode, you can't do it. You haven't gotten the information internalized enough. Here's another example. My former spouse, when I first met her, she told me, hey, yeah, I understand Spanish. And I said, wow, that's really cool. Say something to me in Spanish. And she said, well, I don't speak it, I just understand it. And I went, well, how could that be? I didn't understand this whole receptive, expressive thing. And she says, well, I was raised in a Spanish-speaking family, but I never used it, so I understand it, but I can't speak it. I'm guessing many of you can relate to that. So there's a big difference between receptive and expressive. How do you, as a student, move from being in the understanding mode, which is receptive, to the expressive mode, which is putting it back out there and taking a test? Well, the way you do that is by processing the information. Now, what does that mean? Well, you all know what a food processor is. With a food processor, you open up the top, you put a potato in there, for example, and then you turn on the machine, and the machine will chop the potato or slice the potato. But you still end up with a potato. A potato goes in, a potato comes out. The thing is that it goes in a different form than how it comes out, because the machine processes the potato. Well, the same thing is true with information when you're trying to learn. When you want to go from receptive to expressive knowledge, you must process the information. Well, how do you do that? First of all, let me give you a couple of suggestions. First, one way is you need to take notes on whatever it is you're reading or listening to. But importantly, you want to take notes in a different form than the way you're receiving the information. So if you're taking notes from your textbook, you don't want to just copy what the textbook says. You want to look at what the book says and think, well, how could I express that in my own words, and write it down in that format. A really good thing to do is to take notes in outline form, because that forces you to change the way the information is presented. Another way that you could process information is to make up possible test questions based upon what you read or whatever your teacher is lecturing on. Another way you can process information is you can repeat the information over and over and over again, which is what a lot of people, including myself, we tend to do that because it's kind of the easiest way to do it. You just look at it and look away and repeat, repeat, repeat. The problem is that's not as efficient as actually processing the information. So again, processing the information means you take in the information through your eyes or through your ears, you change it in your brain, and then you put it back out on a piece of paper or on your computer in a different format than the way you received it. And when you do that, you're processing. Now, the interesting thing is that scientists have determined through lots and lots of research that when you do this, you're actually forcing your brain to grow new neurological connections, and that's what makes you actually learn and remember the material. If you don't do this, if you just sit and listen and go, yeah, I understand that, your brain does not grow those new connections, and you are never able to move from receptive knowledge into expressive knowledge. Now, is this easy to do? No, it's not. It takes a lot of work, but you have to ask yourself, well, do I want to pass the class? Do I want to get a good grade? Do I want to graduate from college and go on and get a good job? Then you're going to have to learn how to do these techniques because they're going to be very beneficial for you. So, now, another thing. Maybe you're sitting there thinking, well, I don't want to do all this stuff. Well, let me throw a couple of things out at you. First of all, you might want to ask yourself, why am I in college? What are my goals? If you start thinking about what your goals are, that can kind of motivate you to get through and do the things you need to do in order to be successful. But if you lose track of your goals, you will lose your motivation. So stay focused on your goals. Be passionate about achieving your goals, and then you will find yourself doing whatever you need to do to achieve those goals. The second thing, and this is not a put down, but you need to understand that the high school approach to being a student doesn't work very well in college. And believe me, I went through this myself. When I first got into college, I tried to go at it the same way I did it in high school, and I soon found that it doesn't work very well because in college the bar has been raised, and so you need to come at your studying in a new, more efficient, more effective way. Last thing I want to mention to you, are you having problems because you're distracted? All of us have personal issues in our lives. We have bills to pay. We have relationship issues. If things like that are going on in your life, you're going to be distracted. They're going to be in the back of your mind, and they're going to be bothering you, and they're going to keep you from focusing on what it is you need to do. So I would suggest, if you're having personal issues, that you kind of put the studying aside for example, an hour each day and focus on solving the personal issues, because it's amazing. If you can get those out of the way, it will clear your mind and enable you to stay focused. The last thing I want to mention, again, people are emailing me saying, hey, I'm studying and I'm still not getting good grades on the test. Well, let me ask you a couple questions. Are you doing all of the practices and the review tests 1, 2, and 3? And are you going and checking your answers immediately after you do those tests? And if you get something wrong, are you going back and reviewing to make sure you understand what you did wrong? That's really critical. When you do those things, you're actually processing, which moves you from receptive knowledge into expressive knowledge. The practices are really important. Last thing is, are you watching the videos? I think the videos are helpful. They may not be the most interesting thing in the world, but it gives you another opportunity to receive the knowledge in a different format rather than just by reading it. What I'm trying to do with those videos is approximate a lecture for you. So if you're doing all those things, you're doing all the practices, all the review tests, you're checking your answers, you're watching the videos, and you're doing well on all of those things, then you should do fairly well on the tests. If you're not, there might be another issue going on. You might suffer from test anxiety. If that's the case, I strongly recommend that you go and see a counselor, because the counseling department has seminars that they give on test anxiety. Okay? So, sorry I paused there. My computer screen went blank and I thought it had died. Okay, that's it for today. Anytime you have questions, problems, please email or call. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye.